This is so exciting. I'm so excited to be here, and I just have to say it's so fun to be up on this stage with these awesome people and hearing all of the awesome speakers from this morning, some of whom I kind of just know from online and have now had the opportunity to meet live. Isn't it so fun when you get to meet people live after you've kind of been following them on social? So this is very exciting. So this panel is all about video. So yes, this is a good one because obviously the speakers have been talking a lot about video, and it's a great way obviously to engage with your clients, your customers, and there's all this data that we're seeing, right? Like by 2019, 80% of the internet traffic is going to be video, and how we hear all the time, like, you know, video can, if you add video to your landing pages, it's going to increase conversion rate. So obviously video is something that businesses really need to be taking seriously if they expect to grow not only with social, but to be growing their business. And so these three have done such an incredible job using video to enhance their brand and grow their business. And so we're going to have a really fun chat to hear how you guys are really doing that with not only for your businesses, but for some of those the companies that you actually help too. So Mia, let's start with you because you have created a really cool lifestyle brand, and you get to do some really interesting things. You get to do what you love to do, travel the world, meet really cool people.
Yeah.
And video has really enabled you to create that for yourself. So tell people how you even got into that and how video has impacted your business and life.
Ooh, very accidentally. People say, well, how'd you start doing that? I just say, I made it up. Just wanted to, anything that when I added fun into my business model, that made such a tremendous difference for me. And so now I work with a lot of car companies as well. So we got to drive the Nissan Armada, which is a huge tank out front. So I just take people along with me using video. So Instagram stories has been amazing for me to start using that, and Facebook stories, I use that, tag other companies on it, and then I can also download it and tweet it. So it's real time that I'm taking people along with me on my journeys.
That's so awesome. That's so fun.
It's super, super fun. So, and using live stream has been great too. I went out to Pechanga. We were just talking about that, a resort in California, and they took us on a hot air balloon. I'm like, well, let's just see how long this goes for. So I live streamed, I think, to about 4,300 feet. And then I'm like, I got to put this camera down. I need to pay attention. But, you know, so it's just taking people along with me is more fun than anything.
Yeah, that's cool. And live streaming, obviously, Ross, you're kind of the live streaming pro up here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, how you help your customers, and what live streaming has done for your business, and why you think it is really beneficial for business owners?
Well, I really hadn't done much with video. I had a background in broadcasting, worked on air and radio for 12 years, and then thought I was done with broadcasting and was doing different kinds of things. And Brian Fanzo would always be talking about he's going to speak at an event and then he's going to Periscope it. And I totally understood what Periscope was. It was one person holding a phone, basically broadcasting out, and I was like, okay, that's cool. All right. I keep seeing it. Okay, now I'm aware there's this live streaming thing. And then one day Brian puts up, and we're also going to talk about it later on Blab. And I'm thinking, okay, so this is like a chat thing. All right, I can handle this.
Who remembers Blab? All right,
look at those.
some of you guys.
And so I open up Blab, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in talk radio heaven. I mean, everybody's doing a talk show, and people are doing video podcasts and things like that. And I just thought it was cool, and I figured I would just kind of talk about what other people were doing through social. And next thing I knew, I got the bug again, and so I fell back into it. So it's really, if you like what I do, then, you know, give me the credit. If not, we can blame Brian, because had he not been talking about live streaming constantly, and had I not seen him go from, you know, basically a nice guy I was connected to a guy who was keynoting basically all over the country and the world, and periscoping these live streams, and then I stumbled into Blab, and I was like, well, the talk show thing, that's kind of more interviewing people and having these conversations, And so it really brought together my background in broadcasting along with social media. So now I can answer the question, which was, I help people who want to use video on behalf of their business or building their personal brand. Some people just want to get started with social media, and so video may be a step too far at this point, but other people have been either not seeing progress with social media, or they're making a lot of progress with social media and they want to try to add something else to that mix. And video can be very effective. You don't have to start at the beginning with social media. You can start putting video out and building a community around video. And I think live is the most attractive part about it, because we talk about the human experience. And now you can have a human experience with people all over the world who can become customers and clients and friends, and just walking around here saying hi and hugging people that I didn't even know were going to be here and I'd never met in person, but I've been connected to for 2 or 3 years online, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of community, Brian, you do such an incredible job of community. I mean, throughout all the content you create, your live video, everything that you do, it's so fun to see your fans interact with you, because they're really engaged with you and they love you, and which is really cool. So how do you do that? Like, how do you create that kind of community with all of your content? And I have to say, your slide where you showed the content you create, you make it look really easy. You make it look easy, but I know for a lot of people, it's like, it's not, okay, I get it. I get how that works, but like, you repurpose so much of that content, and obviously that comes natural to you now, but it didn't in the beginning. So to talk about like how you build those fans, and then how do you really think about that repurposing of the content to engage with them?
Sure, and I love this conversation. Actually, I discovered Mia on Google Hangouts, and Google Hangout had a live video feature on Google+, and both of us did interview shows there. And it's kind of funny, because for those that don't realize what Blab is, Blab was the easiest way ever to bring 4 people in a Brady Bunch square onto video. And I like to say it was the gateway video to do this, because the intimidation of looking at yourself on video is scary. It's weird. For me, video dropped in my lap. At the time, before my very first Meerkat, which was the original live video, I had maybe 8 videos on YouTube. YouTube scared the hell out of me. It still kind of scares the hell out of me. I feel like YouTube, you need to be really good at editing, really good at SEO, really good at being consistent with a lot of content coming out there. And all of those things were roadblocks for me to press the damn button, which is why the whole press the damn button thing came to life. But to answer your question, I didn't get into social media to be a marketer. I didn't get into social media. I believe social media is the greatest way to collaborate and find your people, right? I will make this broad statement that I think every industry, every business can take advantage of live video. I don't care what business you're in, what walk of life you're in. I'll be here for 2 days. Challenge me, bring me your industry, your business. I can promise. I did a mortuary about 6 months ago, and I helped them do 10 Facebook Lives from a mortuary. So if you think you have worse or kind of crazier than that, but I think one of the things for me when it comes to community is that social media and marketing, the reason I didn't like what marketing was is I felt like we were told to talk at people, right? A billboard broadcasts what we want at people. And I think of live video as participatory content, which means, and this is where the light bulb went off, my very first Meerkat, and my buddy Gary from Indiana, so shout out to him. I've never met him, but I was in Barcelona, and this kind of sets the bar, is I had a great Twitter community. I had done a lot of, I had a podcast at the time, but I always felt like I was talking at people, not talking with them. And I had just done about 4 hours of video content for Dell in Barcelona, and this app called Meerkat came out, which is just like Periscope, but it was before it was out there. And a friend of mine texted me at Twitter and said, hey, Brian, Gary Vaynerchuk and Ashton Kutcher are using this platform called Meerkat. It's perfect for you, which first of all, I was like, well, how am I like Ashton Kutcher? Like just the fact that you would have even associated me with Ashton Kutcher. He's as tall as Damien and as good looking, and I'm not either one of those. But for me, what the part about it that I loved was it was real and raw. I mean, the reason I built my community is I've cried on social media. I've talked about my struggle with with ADHD. I talked about how excited I am to be a dad. I wasn't afraid to show tattoos. You know, a lot of what Tiffany said, like I really put myself out there. And the question that Tiffany got that I have, you know, I lost clients initially by putting myself out there, but I realized that I was able to get clients that were more relatable to me. But really what live video became was, wait, I can allow my community to interact with me, and I can help give them content that they want. Right? This is the key element of live video. And I was in Barcelona. I went live on Meerkat. I had one viewer. His name was Gary from Indiana. Unfortunately, he disabled his account a week later, and he does not know that he gets mentioned every week around the world, this guy Gary.
You sure it wasn't everybody in Gary, Indiana?
It could have been.
Could have been hundreds
of thousands. Could have been Gary, Indiana. But for me, what the crazy part was, I created 4 hours of content for Dell at this big event. There's 75,000 people in Barcelona. And I went live on Meerkat, and I walked about 5 feet, and Gary jumped on there, and I was showing the back of the camera. And he simply said, hey, Brian, is that the new Samsung phone over there? Can you go show me that phone? And right there, I fell in love with live video. And the reason is I worked for 4 hours with Dell creating content that I thought people wanted as a marketer. Not once did I show the Samsung phone. And so if you think of it this way, if this person that's watching can help shape my content, all of a sudden now I'm talking with people. I'm giving people what they want. I'm not just throwing a bunch of crap at the wall or on the billboard and hoping that's what they want. And so I never feel like a marketer on live video. And you know, I walked 5 feet, the Wi-Fi dropped, and that was the end of my first live stream. But I think my key for community is that I don't have, one of the questions I get a lot is like, you know, I don't know everything, Brian, or I'm not a thought leader, and here's the thing, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm much more of a generalist than anything else, but people like to hear how I do things and why I do them. They do not want to hear from experts. There's plenty of experts in social media, digital, online. There's plenty, way too many. If we could cut them off, that would be really nice. But people care about, you know, tomorrow morning, the team from 50 Strong will be here, and the story that you guys are going to hear tomorrow morning's keynote from Ashley Thompson and that group is amazing. I can promise. I'm gonna set the bar really high for her. She's over here getting nervous. But I came here last year to watch her story, and her story is how you grow a business from Lima, how you do things with heart and hustle and people and the grit. And I fell in love with them by watching her tell her story on stage. And I told her, I was like, you are the perfect live video candidate because people love your heart, your mission, your story is beautiful. You don't have to be an expert in manufacturing. You don't have to be the world's greatest at building, working with Walmart. But if you're willing to tell people how you do it and why you do it, not just what you do, it builds community. And I think the key for me is people never feel like I'm telling them what to do. They feel like they come along and learn with me. And that is the massive difference. I think live video, it can game change every business because you're talking with people and bringing them along with you rather than talking at them.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good point too, because I feel like when people are watching those videos, you're each one of you, you're doing the work. You're not someone who's writing a listicle blog about how to do something and you've never done it. You just think in theory these things should work. And that's what people want to see. Like we want to know that because we can tell when someone writes something or says something that they've never experienced versus we went through the struggle. It was tough, but this is how it worked for me and this is how it may be a good fit for you. So let's talk a little bit about engagement because I think a lot of brands are obsessed with the numbers, like how many views, how many people watched it. I think Damien said this, that's not the most important, especially when you first start. You're not gonna get thousands of people watching your live video or your videos on YouTube, wherever you put them. So how do you guys, what are the metrics that you use to determine video and if it's a success?
Well, I used to, when I did the show on Google Plus a couple years ago, and I would bring on, at that time on Google Plus, you could bring like 7 or 8 people on. It was a shit show, right? But super fun. And Google Plus didn't work that well, so Blab was great because it seemed like a better medium for that. And then I just got really tired of worrying about the metrics all the time, so I used live stream, of course, for my own adventures and so forth. But now I do a show called Drinking with the Dragon, and I have no skin in the game. It's literally me sitting on a Friday night with my bearded dragon having cocktails. and just having people come in. But what's interesting about it is we do get not a huge ton of metrics, but the engagement. And so it's this real time of somebody popping in and saying hi, and then they're saying hi to one another. And then I've had a couple others. Remember when I interviewed Peter Shankman? So talking about your story, so you hadn't really talked about it at all. So Peter Shankman's this amazing author and speaker. He's on a lot of the networks, and he started a new group called Faster Than Normal that talked about ADD being a superpower rather than something to just get past. Really amazing live stream. This one pops in, and then I was able to bring him on, and so that was a game changer because he had just launched it. You hadn't really talked about it at all. So that all happened real time, accidentally, not really planning it. And then I had one other circumstance where I did a live stream. There's a gal that has a not-for-profit that provides sanitary products for homeless women and girls. Really important not-for-profit, and another woman came on who was a PR agent from New York. So those two connected. That literally just happened. So for me, I don't worry as much about metrics in some sense, but what's happening and what happened real time without you being able to plan that. It's pretty neat to watch.
So I think this is an interesting conversation to have as far as metrics. And so I'll use Mia as an example, and I use this on stage all the time, is that, does anybody here believe that Matthew McConaughey drives a Lincoln?
Or that Jennifer Aniston uses
Yes,
a
yeah, or
Vino.
LeBron James has a Buick. They might have it in their driveway, yes, you're correct, but they do not drive it. And them giving me advice on buying a car or what I would actually want, like LeBron James might be able to help Damian because they're about the same height, but he can't help me, right? He doesn't know about Cheerios in the back seat. He doesn't know how much of a pain it is to have 3 car seats, because I have an 8, a 7, and a 4-year-old in the back row. But Mia might have 200 viewers of a video that she's reviewing of a car, or 500 viewers on YouTube. But I can promise you, those 500 people, the likelihood of them buying a car based on her recommendation is 100x versus the million views of LeBron James and his Buick. And if you think of it this way, I use this statement, I have a whole keynote, and the title of the keynote is Relatability is the Future of Marketing. We do not trust brands, we do not trust people, I don't trust celebrities, I trust people that I can relate to. And so when Mia's going and doing all these test drives of cars, she can relate, she can talk about, with Charlie's kids, and can talk about pain points. She can say, I've test driven 30 cars this month or this year. Here are some of the things that can compare. And so my favorite stat for live video is a stat called repeat viewership. Repeat viewership. I don't care if someone comes and watches one of my live videos. I care if you watch 2 of my live videos over a certain amount of time. So I go live on a weekly basis, and if you come and watch a video twice in a month, that is a much more mature lead than one video that gets 5,000 views. And so what I do when I work with brands is, let's not worry about some grand number. Let's try to get 50 people to watch 2 of our next 6 videos. Because if you think about it, if they spend 30 minutes twice watching your content, apparently they like something, right? And so I focus on those minute details of repeat viewership. And Facebook Live is beautiful for this, because you can actually Facebook message somebody that watches your video multiple times and say, hey, thanks for spending an hour with my content. Is there anything more I can give you? Or here's a PDF that gives you more details of what I just talked about on my live video. Game changer, because as we know, like that, finding a mature lead, just because someone watches 10 seconds of you get a 5,000 people to watch 10 seconds of your video, does not mean they're a mature lead. But if you get someone to come back multiple times to consume your content, that is a much more mature lead than anything else. And so that's my favorite stat, repeat viewership. And to that point, repeat viewership of people that are subscribing to Mia to watch her cars and her shows. Or Ross does an amazing job of also kind of celebrating other people's shows. So like, how many people go and watch Ross's show, then come watch my show, right? Like, those are stats that I like to monitor much more than total number of views, because total number of views is the same thing. If you can tell me how much a billboard gives you an ROI by the amount of cars that drive by you, like, that's just ridiculous. Like, anyone that sold billboard advertising, I have no idea how you got away with that. But like, because to me, that's just a sham. Like, 400 cars come by every minute, therefore times 60, times 24 hours in a day, and all of a sudden, that's the projected eyeballs you have on a billboard. Yet, if we're not texting and driving, we're probably watching the road, not like looking at a billboard. So I look at it as like this repeat viewership and trying to focus on these consistent paths that we can get viewers going.
Yeah,
Well-
I guess let me just jump in real quick
yeah.
on the metrics question, because I struggle with the question in general, right? Because it depends on what kind of business you have. And live streaming, live video is a long game. If you need to sell more widgets than Walmart by next quarter, I mean, you can try going live and you might go viral and whatever. But this is something that you're going to put time into. It's not a big cost, but it is a time investment. If you put a little time into it, each week, each month, over a course of years, okay, you will be ensuring that your business has a chance to survive when we get to an era where almost everything is video, and we haven't even gotten really to talk about also voice is kind of where things are going too. So it's going to be not just the visual brand that you have, but what is the voice of your brand? What does your brand sound like? Not just what does it look like, because people are going to be using voice search on things like Alexa. Hope I didn't set anybody's machine off. Google Home, whatever those different devices are. And so you have to figure out, if you're, like, a lot of the people I work with are solopreneurs. They're people who do client work. They do consulting. Or they provide business services. We're getting one client a month or two clients a month has a big impact on their revenue and their lifestyle. So they don't need 1,000 people to show up. They need 10 people to show up for a show, and one of them to say, I'd like to set a 10-minute appointment to go to the next step. And the other thing to think about, I think, with live streaming is it isn't just about the live viewers. It's about building a portfolio so that when somebody Googles you, they have something that they find. And so that content, because you did it live, has a bigger impact than if it's recorded and people say, well, they had a producer and they did 16 takes or whatever. But when you post, even when you post something that you did live later on, right? And people know that it's live and they see how you handle the questions in real time from customers, and they see how you deal with people and what it would be like to work with you and what it might be like to shop at your store and who your employees are. That's where you can make an impact with a small business, if you're a solopreneur, a coach, a consultant, somebody like that. And it really takes a few sales a lot of times, or a few new clients to build that momentum. But think about it when you get started, because I know a lot of people are considering, do I really want to get started in this? Think about it as a long game. You're building a skill set that's going to pay off in 3 years, in 5 years, when your competition looks at you and goes, gee, I wish I got started when that person got started. But if you're looking to measure it in, did I move, hundreds and thousands of products in a short term? No, it's not going to happen that way. It really is about the human experience and about relationships and being there for a community. And as you provide value over time, people get to know you, and then they get to think, okay, when I need that product or service, who do I know that, oh yeah, that person I have a relationship with because I've watched them and they've answered my questions and they've provided something of value. And by the way, it doesn't even have to be talking directly about what your business does. It can be talking about something that you're passionate about that may be tangentially related or not even related to your business. Because if you just mention your business on occasion, right, it's, I'm Ross Brand from Livestream Universe, and then I'm not talking about what I do, what my shows are, where you would go to watch them, but you're getting to know that, okay, maybe this guy knows a thing or two, maybe I'll check him out later on if I would want to watch some live streams. But so you take that approach, and it's about building those relationships. It's a long game. It doesn't necessarily convert in the next day in terms of volume, but those relationships with one person at a time and one person at a time, one of those will convert for you, and then another one will, and you'll start to see things happen. But again, it is a long game, and I know I've said that like 4 times, but it's really worth approaching it that way.
What if you have a cat on a Roomba? Because you know that goes over big.
You have a
I'm
who
just
on a
cat,
what?
a cat on a Roomba. You know, have you ever seen the videos of the cat on the Roomba? And he's just like,
Oh,
she's
yeah,
just a cat on a Roomba.
Oh, then you win. Then you win. But I don't know if anybody actually buys
That's a short
anything,
game
but
right there.
you might make money by getting sponsored or something if you can do that, right?
The thing I think is that's cool too is, and any kind of content marketing is a long-term play, like you said, Ross. But what's cool is like you might do a couple of live streaming shows and people wouldn't watch it, and then they're just kind of scrolling through, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, like what does this Mia girl have to say? Because now I've kind of seen her do these videos, and now they want to check in. So you never know what piece of content is going to draw somebody in and how many times they would have seen it before they even click that play button. I have a question for you guys, whoever wants to take it, around the strategies of live video or video in general. What are some things that people need to do? Like if someone's out there saying, oh my gosh, I am petrified getting in front of the camera, I wouldn't even know where to start, but I'm going to. What are some things to know before you start going live? Like, do you have calls to action? What do you say? Like, do you do an agenda? What are some things that have worked for you?
If you don't mind, the most important part of your video is the audio. Just imagine that our microphones went out and you couldn't hear. After a couple minutes of looking at our pretty faces, there's really no reason to continue. If a curtain came down, Kate could still go on asking us questions, the three of us could still continue answering, and you could still get the knowledge that you came to pick up. So the most important thing is to make sure that you can be heard. And if you have acceptable audio, you can do a lot, even if your video isn't good. But you know, it's a few small things. Stabilize it with a tripod, or lean your phone up against the, what was it?
Butterfingers.
Butterfingers. I thought maybe it was a Snickers, but it was. So it's just small things. But you have a broadcast studio right here in your pocket. And I mean, when I started in radio, I had an intern for a year in order to get a chance to go out and cover something where I could come back and like voice a thing. Now I could go record whatever I wanted to and send it to anybody in the world. So you have what you need, and it's a matter of just getting started.
I would add on top of that, so I think one of the things that's weird about live video is just because the word live is included does not mean it has to be sporadic. I think if you guys heard what we just talked about, Ross goes live on a certain time at certain days, right? Mia was talking about every Friday she does Drinking with the Dragon. My show is every Monday at 4 p.m. What's the part here that's important? Consistency. And just because it's live doesn't mean you can't calendar it. I really quickly realized for me, I went live random. I've done over 2,300 live videos myself in 2.5 years, and I would say about 2,000 of those were just randomly whenever I wanted to go. But when I wanted to work with brands, and I said, well, I want to bring in a consistent audience because I care about repeat viewership, which I talked about before, I wanted to give people an idea. So I tell people, you don't have to follow me on social, you don't have to sign up for my email newsletter, just show up my Facebook page every Monday at 4 p.m., you get content. And they're like, wait, that's live I'm like, yes, it's live where you can interact, but it's still appointment-based content. So I think consistency is a big key. I will not work with any client that's not willing to do 6 live videos. If you want to just do 1 live video, there's plenty of other people to work with. I believe it takes consistency and time and trial and error. And then another tip that I have is that the number of live viewers can really be intimidating. So one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients is what I did with a lot of my friends early on is I make you put a sticky note on the bottom right-hand corner of your phone. Does anybody know what's in the bottom right-hand corner of your phone when you're going live?
Yep.
The number of people watching. So if you can't see if there's 1 person watching or 100, you will not change your inflection, you will not change your passion, you will deliver the same amount of content. That number is scary because all of a sudden you have 1 person, you're like, thanks, Mom. And then you have 2 people, and you're like, Mom has 2 phones. And all of a sudden you have 20, and you're like, what the hell did I just say? And then you have 100, and then you have 19, then you have 5, and then you have 1, and everything changes. So my rule with anybody I work with is 20. I want 20 live streams before you ever care about that number during a live video, right? So that's the first one. The second one is they put a camera on the back of your phone for a reason. Don't be afraid to interview somebody else. If video scares you, and here's the other thing, nobody loves watching themselves on video, and if they do, they're pretty self-absorbed to begin with, right? Like nobody really, I don't watch my own videos. I have someone else that will critique my videos. Brian Kramer's in the audience. Brian will often send me some nice feedback of my content via video. But I think that's something that we forget is if video scares you, don't be afraid to interview somebody on the back of the phone. And I do a workshop getting people into this mode. And one of the things that, if it also scares you, I want you to do 10 FaceTime videos with your family. Nobody can see it except you and your family, but you need to get used to looking at yourself in the video. And you'd be amazed, all of a sudden you start doing more FaceTimes, you're like, oh, well I do have a big nose, and if I hold it here, my big nose doesn't show. I'm speaking for myself. Like, you can see my nose hair if I have my phone like this, right? Like, you can see, and these are things like, once you get comfortable on video, I mean, I did a lot of video before I could pull it out, hit the button, and go. But it comes into that consistency. Audio, without question, what Ross said is extremely important. And playing the long game. Like, don't be afraid to, like the average podcast dies after 7 episodes because people give up because it's hard to build a base on podcasting. It's the same thing on live video. Don't give up after 7 videos if you've only had 20 total viewers and it's all your mom or your significant other. Like, continue going. I think that is the pace that we've seen. And I've seen a couple people that are using Facebook watch shows. They get 40,000 people right now. I was one of the 1 people that watched their show for the first year. I think Tiffany gave a couple of good examples of someone that went live 365 days a year, like even on Christmas, even on New Year's. Like, that person has built an audience and a community because people know what to expect. If you're not willing to put in that time, there's plenty of other, mail-in marketing schemes that exist. But I do believe live video is a game changer if you're willing to invest the time, be consistent, and kind of push the needle that way.
So I'm one of those watchers of Felicia who does that show, and it's very consistent for me. So I was so glad she brought that up because it'll just pop up because I watch her and I pushed a yes that I want to get notified when she goes live. So to your point as well, a lot of times if I'm busy because it's just Felicia talking, I just kind of set it down, turn up the volume, putter around, get things done, but I'm still listening like a podcast as well. So the audio is really important, but I love that she does. I've watched her since last July, so it's amazing. So consistency works. A couple other practical things. If you are going to do live and you're facing yourself, make sure you find out where your camera is. Huge pet peeve for me if I'm like, I'm over here, right? And they're looking over here like Marty Feldman or something. I'm like, who are you looking at? So find out where your camera is and keep looking at that. You do have to, instead of looking down at yourself, it's pretty obvious, right? And then if you are going to flip the camera so it's front facing or back facing, the sound does change as well. It's louder. You can hear more audibly when it's facing you, but if you're filming something else, just remember to speak louder. So just a couple of practical tips on that.
And I think on top of that also is respect the news feed of your people, right? Just because you can go live doesn't mean you should.
Oh, such a good statement.
I mean, the reason live video is amazing is because everyone in this room can go live. The reason 99% of live videos suck is because everyone in this room can go live. That's the honest truth. So think about that from a standpoint. Like, and Chris Strupp, I know, is back there talking while I'm talking. And I love you, Chris. I called you out.
He called you out.
But Chris Strupp, he went live he had Snapchat interviews and live video every single day on his 50-state tour. But if he went live every single day today when he's in his house, he would annoy me and I would turn my notifications off. But instead, I showed up every single time because he was with a different nonprofit. He was working with different people every time. So remember that, like, respect your newsfeed. I'll think about going live and go, ooh, I really want to go live tonight when I'm with some other people. I'm just going to document this on regular video, because that exists on our phone as well. Like, in your camera, just click video. You can record a basic video. But I think that is a big piece. Is that I think you can alienate your audience just as much as you can if you're not consistent. People don't know when to find you. If you're streaming too much, the worst thing someone can do is turn off notifications. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is that if you have a big audience on some channel, tap into that. When I worked with IBM, we were trying to figure out how we could really do a powerful live video. And we went live on their Facebook, and it didn't work very well. There wasn't very many people watching. And I asked them, how many people engage with your Facebook posts on general? And they're like, a couple hundred. And I was like, well, actually, we had a couple hundred to watch the live video. So really, we were on par. But they said their open rates on their email newsletter were out the roof. So what we did was a drip campaign on email marketing, letting people know next Friday, you're going to be able to talk to the CMO of IBM p.m. and have an interview. You can ask the CMO questions next Friday. We sent an email out the Wednesday before. Then on the Thursday, we sent a clip, and it was the CMO saying, hey guys, I'm gonna be on Facebook Live tomorrow. You guys can ask me any questions you want. So rather than just marketing the Facebook Live on Facebook, we used email marketing, went to where their audience already was. So if all of you out there right now are like, my Facebook page isn't that big, I'm not gonna go Facebook Live, I just said no. I just told you you can't use that as an excuse. That's a bad crutch. I want you to think about how can I tap into where my audience is today. And maybe you're a brick and mortar store. Put on the outside of your cash register, I go live on Facebook every Saturday morning. Join me on Facebook. You'd be amazed how many people will take that out, take a picture of that, and they'll show up. And you're using your brick and mortar store as an advertising to get people to watch a live video. Like think, like Damon said, don't think in the box or out of the box. Just think about how can I go to where my audience is, educate them so that they will come to you on their channel.
Okay, last question. What is the one thing that everyone here that you want them to do when they leave, to take some kind of action to get started with a video strategy? The one thing.
Go live on your personal page, on your personal profile. Don't go live on your business page if you have one, and talk about something that you're interested in. And keep it short to about 5 to 10 minutes. You're gonna stay on whether anybody shows up or whether 1 million people show up, and then you're gonna wrap it up in about 10 minutes. And just think about what you want your first thing that you say is and what the last thing you say is. And that could be just saying your name and what you're gonna talk about, and the last thing could be thank you, see you next time or whatever, but just have in mind what you want to say at the very beginning and the very end, and you'll find the rest of it goes okay. But the toughest thing is, for most people, is the first thing to say and the last thing to say. How to get started and how to end, because that's what usually is the choppy part. You're going to be fine. If you talk about something that you're interested in, you're passionate about, and you're going to have a good time the rest of the way. And do that for a little bit, and then maybe somewhere along the line you drop in your business. Right. And then as you get comfortable, you've done 5, you've done 10, you say, oh, this isn't so bad. Now I can go over to my business page and start talking about the sale we have going on, or maybe just answering questions about your field in general without necessarily promoting your product. But ultimately, you're going to get to the point as you get comfortable with it and people get more used to seeing people doing business on live video. Eventually, you're going to be able to say, like, I have this phone and it's a great phone and we sell it for, the lowest price around. And you're going to see more and more QVC style live streams because people are doing it and they're killing it with that.
Mia?
So here you go. Definitely to your point. Yeah, I know that we thought about it.
That didn't go too well.
Doesn't go over too well. To your point, absolutely. Just start a live stream, and definitely don't feel badly about putting a call to action in there, and you just want to drip that in there, but don't feel like, oh, I'm already here, I don't want to make that big of a deal out of it. Say what your message is, and that could be a not-for-profit that you want to talk about. It could be go over to my business page, subscribe at my website. If you get too nervous about that, first of all, you can always just delete the video, or you can change the privacy. So you can do a video, change it to just only that you see it, and you can watch yourself. That really is important. I know it's making you cringe thinking about it, but honestly, if you just give yourself a few minutes and go look at how you're doing, maybe if you're using your hands too much, because who does? Me. Or you could be saying, I'm too much, or that you're not looking at the camera. Just do that and then keep at it. Cool. Absolutely.
So I would say my advice is printed on my hat. It's pretty simple. I think, here's the thing, every person in this room, I think you guys have all listened to Tiffany talk about video, Damon showed video of what he did on YouTube, Angus talked about all the different things they're doing community, I talked a little bit about omni-sensory, and you've all taken notes, you've all thought in your head, okay, this is what video, this is what live video, and I can guarantee every one of you have also thought of an excuse of why you're not gonna do it. Every person, I've seen your eyes, and I see the nod, and then the And here's the thing, start somewhere. If you do not press the damn button today or tomorrow, you're gonna come back to this event a year from now and say, I wish I did video, can you talk to me about video again? So I don't care if it's a Facebook Live, I don't care if it's a FaceTime with your kids, I don't care if it's a FaceTime with your iPad and nobody's on the other side. I want you to press the button and start getting comfortable with video. Video is the closest we can get to human interaction online. I don't believe social media or digital marketing replaces a handshake. I believe it gives us the opportunity to have more handshakes, turn handshakes into hugs. And those hugs and those handshakes are strong when we get on video, because here's the thing, the world has enough hate, the world has enough haters, the world has enough people faking it until they make it, selling unicorns and rainbows. If you get on live and tell your story and start sharing your message, the good crop will rise to the top. We can change the world by getting good messages out there. The problem is all the people that are good messages are writing down all those excuses that every person here has right now to not go live, and all the people that sell unicorns and rainbows and faking it till they make it, they're the ones pushing the messages out there. So my message is simple. Press the damn button today or tomorrow. I don't care where it is. You don't have to tag anybody. You don't have to show it to anybody. But I promise you, by doing it and starting now, you will not regret it as you move forward.
Bam.
Real quick, one other thing that I do, if you don't want to get on camera, literally people have asked me to come on camera and I'm not ready, and I turn the camera and I put it on the lizard, right? And so I'm talking, but they're just watching my lizard's expressionless face.
I've been talking to the lizard many times on her stream.
Yeah. So that's something you can do as well. Choose a cat, choose a plant, something, but if you want to at least get comfortable to start, and then you can flip the camera when you're ready.
Awesome. Well, Brian, Mia, Ross, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope
Good
you guys got a lot out of this panel. And thank you so much for being here. Jessica, thank you for such an awesome day. And thank